Hey guys, Chris here, and welcome to the 10 to 80% charging time and charging speed test, where we put the manufacturer's claimed charging speed to the test. And Mercedes-Benz claimed that this EQS 580 4MATIC has a peak charging speed of 200 kilowatts. So that's what we're going to put to the test today. Will we be able to reach that 200 kilowatt of peak charging speed? But maybe more importantly, we are testing the time it takes to go from 10 to 80%, as well as the speed in kilowatts, in kilometers per hour, in kilometers per minute, and also miles per hour, which are important measures for a lot of people out there. We'll also be generating a charging curve so you guys get a visual representation of the actual charging session. I'll also be filming it so you guys will be seeing it in a time lapse. And then at the very end of the video, we're going to put this car into a chart, ranking it against the competition to see how it fits into, well, the charging sessions of the other cars. Will it perform good? Will it perform bad? How will it actually perform relatively to other cars? And there are a few things that we have to talk about before we actually, connect to a charger. First off, we are at 31%, so we're gonna have to drive this car out on the road till below 10%. The temperature outside is also minus 3 degrees Celsius, and for the battery to be able to charge at a normal pace, that claimed charging speed, it has to be under operating temperature, which usually is around 30 to 50 degrees Celsius, depending on EV. So that means we have to actually take this car out on the road to generate heat in the battery. We have to load the battery under normal conditions, so heat will be generated, and it will be up to, well, normal operating temperature with this outside temperature. So that means we may not actually be able to hit that 30 to 50 degrees Celsius, which in return may not give us the best charging speed. So this is a real world test to see how this car actually performs when it is cold outside. So that's just something to consider. If it was 20 degrees Celsius outside, we took the car out and drove it for maybe half an hour or an hour, we probably would have gotten closer to that charging speed. So that's just a caveat. I'm guessing we're not going to get 200 kilowatts of charging speed, but again, this is a real world test to show you guys how this car performs in the real world. And lastly, we are going from 10 to 80% because in most EVs, going above 80% at a charger is super slow. So taking an EV out on a long trip, connecting to a charger, you're usually going to charge and stop at around 10%. You're not going to go much below that because the car may be reduced in power. So if you're going on a motorway, you may not actually have enough power to go normal speed. And also if you're going across a mountain pass, you may not have enough power to climb at a normal pace and do, pass-bys and stuff like that, or driving past cars, So that is why 10 to 80%, in my opinion, is actual real-world usable capacity of a battery. You're not going to go below 10%, and you're not going to charge above 80%. Of course, when you're going to start at home with 100% battery. So guys, I'm going to start now. We're going to get on the road, and I'll catch up with you after the actual charging session. Before we take a look at the numbers, look at the charging curve, and then put this car into chart to see how it actually compares to the competition, I want to give a huge thanks to today's video sponsor, Eviny Bilkraft. They're one of the largest providers of lightning, rapid, and fast charging here in Norway. And this test, today's charging test, was actually done on their 360 kilowatt ABB charger, which is a pilot project and is the fastest lightning charger in the world that has a built-in rectifier that converts, the alternating current power from the network to the direct current electricity that goes into your battery. So the whole thing is much more compact and can fit much more places than your traditional, lightning chargers where you have the rectifiers as a separate building or construction next to it. So that is pretty cool. And if you want to support the channel, go down in the description box down below and download the Eviny Bilkraft charger. There will be a link for Apple and for Android. So thank you very much. Before we connected to the charger, I drove this car 1 hour and 10 minutes on the motorway with an average speed, according to the car, of a little more than 90 kilometers an hour. This being Bergen, the speed limits aren't the highest, so I had to make do with the best I have. But I was able to do a little hack because I drove this car around 25 kilometers in a tunnel called Knappetunnelen, like driving it back and forth. So I was able to go motorway speed or close to motorway speed in temperatures of between 5 and 7 degrees Celsius. It being a tunnel, it's much milder. So that means we probably got better, conditions for charging today than the outside temperature, which is -3. So should give us better results than, just driving in the cold. So if we take a look at the actual charging curve, while we connected, we were at 135 kilowatts, which is quite good. And then we peaked at 168 kilowatts at 50%, and then it just dropped down to 114 at 80%. So pretty flat charging curve, and that peak speed of 168 kilowatts is still a bit away from the 200 kilowatt peak charging speed. But this being done in the cold, it's not bad. It's actually quite good, and other cars we have tested in the cold haven't been able to perform this good. So 10 to 80%, if you look at the chart, was done in 35 minutes, which isolated does not sound very good. But considering that this car has a net battery capacity of 107.8 kilowatt hours, that is quite impressive, because that means in that 10 to 80%, in that 35 minutes of charging, you are going to gain 472.5 kilometers of range using WLTP numbers. And we do the WLTP numbers because they are consistent along the board, and you can then compare cars. Maybe in the future I will do with my own numbers, but it's hard, testing in winter and testing in summer. Not having enough testing time and results, it's kind of hard to put these cars up against each other. That's why we use the WLTP numbers. So you have to take that with a grain of salt with the WLTP numbers. But if we take a look at the kilometers gained per hour charging, that is insane. 810 kilometers of charging speed in the cold is really good, and the third best charging speed we have gotten. So that makes this car quite impressive at charging, because it's done in the cold. If this was in the summer, we probably would have gotten even better charging speeds. And considering that the peak speed of this is just 200 kilowatts, it's not like 239 like the Kia EV6 or 225 like the Ioniq 5 or 270 like the Porsche Taycan or the e-tron GT. This shows you that you can get good charging speeds with having a flatter charging curve and a lower top speed. And in my opinion, I think that is a better way to do it, because that means you can utilize more of the chargers more of the time. And then in the real world, you actually have more access to that charging speed. So I think that is a better way to do it. So guys, that was today's video. Let me know what you think about the results. I'm a bit disappointed we weren't able to peak at 200 kilowatts or get more of that higher charging speed. But again, it being cold, that was kind of what I expected and what you guys can also expect. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later, and goodbye.